Hello and welcome to English Digest. I'm Seb.
And I'm Laura.
And today we are looking at this month's topic-based writing assignment. So you're new to this, Laura, right?
Yes,
this is
I
your first time
am.
joining us.
I'm really excited because I'm working with you, my favorite partner,
Yes.
Seb.
Anyway, today, Laura, what we're doing is we're looking at topic-based writing. We're learning how to write a really interesting essay or story based around a topic. And we're going to be giving you guys some interesting tips and tricks to make your English better and to make your stories more interesting. So first off, I have a question for you, Laura. Do you know what a ride or die is?
Oh my God, what does that mean?
A ride or die?
Yeah.
Do you have any guesses?
Am I gonna ride on a motorcycle and then die? Is it like a life or death, situation?
I guess you're in the right area.
I am?
Yes, you are, but not quite there. So a ride or die is someone who's extremely loyal. So a really loyal friend or a partner, somebody who would never
Why
do anything
ride?
bad.
I don't get that.
Yeah, well, I think it's from the duo Bonnie and Clyde.
What?
Yeah, like the guy and the girl who used to
I know,
rob
this
banks.
is one of my favorite old movies.
Oh, really?
真的, okay.
Yeah, well, this comes from that, I think, actually.
Okay, ride or die.
So, they stay
Okay.
together and they keep committing crimes together and they know they're going to go to jail or they'll get killed if they stop, so they just stick together.
Besties.
Besties. So besties who rob banks, basically. So
Okay.
your ride or die is somebody who will always be there for you, who
So
would
even
never
in
abandon.
a life or death situation,
Yes.
they will always be there for you kind of thing?
Exactly
my
that kind
God.
of thing.
They'll be by your side. Oh.
Yes.
In the movie though.
Anyway, let's move on now and take a look at our topic and instructions and we
Okay.
can see why we're talking all about ride or
Yeah,
dies.
I'm confused.
So, we begin with we've got our assignment for today. So, our assignment goes like this. Who will you turn to for advice before you make a big life-changing decision? Is it your grandparents, your friends, your parents, a teacher you respect, or someone else? Write an article sharing your story. In the first paragraph, cover who they are and why you have chosen to approach them. In the second paragraph, talk about a time you asked for help and in what ways their advice helped you make your final decision. The article should contain at least 2 paragraphs and be at least 120 words in length. So that is a really good question. Who would you turn to for advice before a big decision? Who would you turn to, Laura? Who would you ask if you needed help?
Okay, turn to. Okay, 就是求助于谁哦。It has to be my boyfriend because he's super smart and calm. I think calm is really important when you're making decisions because I usually get nervous quite easily and I might panic or feel anxious if I make a big decision. So I do want a second opinion, right? Yeah, so
Yes,
I would probably turn to somebody who's wise and calmer than me. And in my case, it'll be my boyfriend. And what about you?
That's a really good question. I think I would have to say my best friend, Tanya. Shout out to Tanya. Tanya. So she used to live in Taiwan and left a few years ago, but we always keep in touch. We talk every week. And she knows me better than myself. That's what I always say.
What?
So if I'm about to
I'm going to
make
give her a call.
Yeah.
Hey, spill it. I want to know,
Hey, me.
Seb's secrets. 我想知道你的八卦, okay?
Yeah, she can give you all the gossip.
So when you make maybe a silly decision, do you think she's there to say that's dumb?
She's there to say it's dumb and she's there to stop me from making silly decisions. So she's good to talk to. Or maybe my sisters as well. I also like to talk to my sisters because they're like your boyfriend. They're very level-headed. They don't get too crazy if things are stressful. And so those are good people to talk about. To talk to, sorry.
OK， 所以今天我们的主题就是大家可以思索一下，你认为在面临人生重大选择的时候，应该要听取谁的意见或是想法呢？所以我们本课就是要写一篇短文，说明你的看法。那文是分2个部分哦。第一个部分要说明你选择这位对象的理由，那第二部分要举出 自己过去的经验哦，并且描述听取意见后对于你所做的决定产生了什么实质的影响。那文章需要分段，文长至少要120个单词。Okay, so do we have like an approach?
Right, we do need to develop an approach before we get started because we need to write a specific kind of passage for today's assignment. So now we're thinking of those special people we trust. Let's take a closer look at today's assignment. So first off, we need to know what kind of writing we're going to be doing. You know, in previous episodes, we've looked at how to write stories, how to write about graphs, how to write about pictures. But what kind of writing are we going to be doing today? We could be writing about a review, an article, a letter. What is it? What are we looking at?
OK, 所以何谓叙述论说文哦？这个就是我们今天要探讨的哦。叙述论说文指的是一篇文章当中涵盖叙述以及论说两种文体哦。那近期是频繁出现在这个学测啦，或者是指考的作文当中。举例来说，110年的你对英文授课要如何因应与规划哦，或者是109年哦，有提到就是校园安全的重要性以及采取措施，还有108年的主题是台湾最让你感到骄傲的面向以及行销方式。所以呢，这类的文体第一部分我们要怎么样？要针对主题加以论说，然后提出结论哦。但是第二部分要怎么样？再依结论，然后叙述某个现象、经验或者是事件等等。那这两个部分的顺序，其实呢也是可以对调的哦。
Right, so what we're going to be doing is writing a narrative essay. Now, in English, the word narrative, that first part, is 叙述, and that's basically a fancy word for a story. So when you're writing a narrative, that could be something like Harry Potter, for example.
Yeah, it's like the idea of a narrator, like, you know, what they say. Yeah.
Narrative is basically talking about something that happened in a story format.
Yeah.
So when you write a short story, you're writing a narrative. However, we're writing a narrative essay. We could also say a narrative argumentative essay.
Oh my
gosh.
Basically,
or an argumentative narrative. And that's a story that is making a point. It's making an argument. So today, we're going to be writing a personal story, but the point of the story is to tell the reader who we trust the most when we have a problem. And we could also be telling them, you know, why it's important to talk about your problems as well. Those could be the things that you're arguing in this assignment. So that should be the main theme or point of your writing.
Right, I get it. Okay, you have to make your answers logical, like you have to give great reasons for that. Okay, 所以要写什么啊？怎么写？我们来看一下哦，英文作文的架构基本上就分为有什么呢？ Introduction 就是引言啦，还有 Body 就是文章的主体，还有 Conclusion 就是结论。那本篇的叙述论说文也是这样子的架构发展哦。Introduction 是文章的引言啦，所以要说明文章要探讨的主题跟动机。那全文的主旨句就是 thesis statement， 常常是在第一段点出哦。那这次的主题的题目就是该听取谁的意见为例哦。所以 introduction， 可能以下几种的写法哦。像是第一个就是你可以说明多数人可能的选择，然后呢，并于随后比较自己的选择，或者是2，从自己的生活范围中点出选择。那本次2篇的范文哦，都是在引言处先点出这个人所属的团体，再从中点出这个人是谁。
So remember, you need the right kind of thesis statement to make your writing clear. Thesis statement, remember, is 主题句. So when we're doing a narrative, we're going to take the reader on a storytelling journey. So you need to give them a clear place to begin, somewhere for the story to begin to develop. So for example, let's say our person that we trust is called Sarah, and Sarah is our best friend. We could say, I have hundreds of great friends, but none of them know me better than Sarah. or simply, Sarah and I met in the first grade, and she has been my closest friend ever since. So both of these give us an immediate idea of what kind of person Sarah is to us. Obviously, she's very important, but they also kind of begin a story. She knows a lot about us. We met in school. You know, there's things that we can say after that which turn this into an interesting story. So maybe start to think about where you want your story to begin and use that to develop your thesis statement.
I like
After that, we need to write the body of our story.
OK, 所以像刚刚一开始我们就可以一开始点出嘛，就说 I have hundreds of great friends. 我有好几百个好朋友 But none of them know me better than Sarah. 但是没有人比 Sarah 更懂我。所以有没有点出补充说明点出就是说哇这个人跟你的关系有多么的紧密多么的好哦。好 OK, and body, right?
Yes.Body, the main bit of our story. So we're kind of following on from the introduction. But what are some things that we need to consider when we're writing the body?
OK, 所以 body 是文章的主体嘛，所以主要分为2大部分，那要依照题目的要求，所以第一部分必须先解释选择这个人的理由，这就是所谓的论述啦。那2篇范文都会点出选择为何人，然后后面要随即解释这个选择的理由。第二部分呢，必须举出一项过去的经验哦，也就是叙述。要注意提出的经验或者是事件必须呼应第一部分的选择跟其理由，以维持文章的连贯性哦。所以这个是要注意的地方。
And right, once we get past the body, we then need to move on to the conclusion. Now, for stories, I always like to think of these 3 parts, the introduction, body, and conclusion, kind of like a hamburger.
I was going to say a sandwich.
Yeah. Yes, or a sandwich, right. If you're eating a sandwich, you need at least 3 parts, right? You don't have 1 piece of bread and 1 piece of meat.
And
you
lettuce.
Have the top bun or the top piece of bread, the filling, and then the bottom.
I'm getting hungry from all this talk.
I'm also very hungry. I didn't have lunch. So
this is our conclusion.
That's where this idea is coming from. So we've got our introduction, we've got the body, we've explained our main points, but we can't leave it there. We need a good final paragraph to round it off make our final point, right?
This is what I always tell my students. It's like, so what are you trying to say here? I need a conclusion. It's like you're telling me all this. It's like, so what about it? Give me a good conclusion, like just, sum it up, right? Okay, conclusion 是文章的结论，说明意义啊、体会与影响。所以依照题目的要求，结论必须明确指出，我在听取建议之后，对你的想法啦，或是行为产生了什么样的改变，那这些改变最后让你做出什么样的选择。我觉得 conclusion 很重要，因为会让观众真的要听完之后觉得有点恍然大悟，就说刚刚前面听了这样下来，就真的有很大的意义，要做一个结尾，有一个结论总结。
That's a very good point. Sometimes when we're writing long stories or long essays, we make lots of really good points. We define a problem, we give lots of different opinions, we analyze it. But so much has been said, it can be difficult for the reader to understand why they read everything, right?
What did I just read?
Exactly.
People forget.
Exactly. So you can think, what's my main point? Or you could say, what are some things that might happen in the future? What have I learnt about trusting friends? Things like that you could put at the end, which give your story more meaning. So those are good things to consider when you are writing your conclusion. Now, it's time for us to move on to the actual assignment at hand. We're going to be talking about the actual ideas we're going to be putting into our story today. So for our brainstorming section, we're going to teach you a new trick that you can do for planning out your content.
Nice.
Now, looking at this assignment, I thought actually a simple mind map would normally work quite well.
I love mind maps.
Yes, I use them all the time.
Same.
So today's table basically works like a flowchart. So guys, you might remember that flowcharts we have kind of instead of it being a spider's web coming from the middle, we go from the top to the bottom of the page or side to side. And we kind of add bubbles of information.
I like that because
smaller points.
It's like jotting down bulletin points idea.
Kind of similar to that.
Kind of. OK. 所以本次写作的提示当中会所含的3个面向就是：1. 我需要做的选择是什么？2. 我该向谁寻求建议？3. 寻求建议后的实质改变。那要试着用以下的问题分析表格来厘清，哇，你很快就可以架构出文章的雏形哦。
Exactly. So if you guys turn over and look at the tables, we have some examples here, and I think it's good to look at these while we explain how today's flowchart is going to work. Or I guess it's a flow table because it's not really what a normal flowchart looks like.
Right.
But I think this one is very good for creating a structured story about our question. If you go back to the assignment, we kind of asked a few different things. When have you had a big problem? Who do you turn to when you have problems? And how can they help you? Give us a personal story, right? So you have at least 3 questions to ask there. So what they've done here in the magazine is they've organized these questions in a logical order.
That's so smart.
Exactly.
How thoughtful.
Makes it so easy. In this left column, we have 3 questions, right, Laura? What are the questions that we have?
What decision am I making? 我要做出什么决定？ Who do I turn to for advice? Why? 那我要跟谁求助啊？然后为什么啊？ In what ways did their advice help? 那他们就是会有没有实质上做改变呢？帮助你。
Exactly. And we can kind of split these into the 2 paragraphs. In more than one way, actually. We could either take the first 2 questions and use them to write our first paragraph, or we could take the first question to write our first paragraph and the second 2 to write our story.
Oh my God, you're such an expert in writing.
Some people
you
just
should
have
teach
really
my
good
students.
skills.
I think you're a better teacher than I am. I'm going to steal your strategy now. This is actually a really good method for my writing class now.
So let's take a look at the example that we have. So the first one we have is, whose advice should I seek? And we're going to be talking about the question that they're asking, what decision am I making?
Yeah, we're going to find out what decision first, right?
Yes, what decision am I making? So this person has said whether I should go to a college in Europe. So this person needs help deciding whether to go to Europe to study. And so who are they turning to? Who are they going to ask for help?
This is funny. My uncle Michael, he's mature. 他非常的成熟. He's had a lot of experiences. So yeah, maybe he studied abroad in Europe, before. 他有很多的经验. And there you go. Number 3, he has lived overseas.
Right.
Yeah, because when you talk about a lot of experiences, it could talk about not just living abroad. It could be like this person just has a lot of experience in everything in life.
Exactly. So we then go on to the third question. In what ways did their advice help? So he's right that Taiwan and my friends will always be here, and he made me realize I shouldn't be afraid of going to a new place.
So we're going to show them another example?
Yes, let's go through this one quickly so we have time to look at our writing samples as well. So this second one is very different. What decision am I making? Whether I should break off my friendship with a longtime friend who betrayed me. So who would you talk to? Well, this person said, my grandparents. So their reasons for this are, I tell them everything that happens in my life or that happened in my life. They are good listeners, and they always help me understand my problems without telling me what to do outright.
And yeah, in what ways did their advice help? The grandparents, right?
In what ways did they help? I was able to express my feelings clearly to that person.
There you go.
My grandparents' advice made me realize that he was not a true friend, and I stopped being friends with him.
Yeah. Okay. Reese. No, just kidding. Well, we have this mutual friend, Reese. I'm just being mean here.
Yeah.
It's a bit
Maybe
of an
he'll
inside
listen
joke.
to this podcast.
Yeah, I hope Reese is listening to this, though.
Sorry, Reese. Anyway. Okay, let's run on over to the outline section of this assignment now. So we've got lots of different ideas. You guys can pick anything else, by the way. You don't have to just write about college or friends. Like if you have another problem that comes to mind, you can use that. But for the outline, we're basically just structuring our ideas into a layout that's easy to use. So as we've said in every episode, basically, we need to organize this into a topic sentence for each paragraph and some supporting points. So our first topic sentence here is, I am lucky to have many smart people around me. So that's kind of obviously pointing out what the main subject of this paragraph is, the main thing that we want to talk about, makes it very clear. And then we give our supporting points. And you can see here that what they've done is they've used the answers for questions 1 and 2 in our brainstorming exercise to write this paragraph.
Oh!
So they talk about Uncle Michael.
Super smart.
And they say,
He's mature, yeah. 然后这里有没有看到它的 ABC 有3个论述，就是 I can talk to anyone in my family or my circle of friends about my problems. Yeah, so you're able, this is like what you were saying, you're able to express your feelings clearly to this person.
Exactly.
And B, my uncle Michael is the person I speak to the most. Okay, this was mentioned in the example previously. 就是他的 Uncle Michael 是他可以最常跟他倾诉的一些心事想法。And C, he is mature and has a lot of experiences that let him give good advice. Wow, that sums it up.
Exactly. Yeah. So paragraph 2 lays out the recent problem that you turn to Uncle Michael for help with. So this is really kind of the third question. And it says, I have been trying to decide which college to go to. All my friends have chosen to study in Taiwan. I know there are lots of good choices for me in Europe. My uncle told me Taiwan and my friends will always be here. And that's a piece of advice, actually, that my dad gave me a few years ago when I was deciding whether to come to Asia and I was living in Spain. He told me, you really like your life there and it's fine, but it's not going to go away. It's not going to disappear, like sink into the sea. You can always come back if you don't enjoy Taiwan.
And then you might make even more friends. You might even make more friends.
Exactly. So he said, give it a try, give it a go and see if you like it.
I love your dad.
Let's go on to our conclusion. I realized he was right and I shouldn't be scared to explore faraway places. So this second half of the sentence is really our conclusion. I shouldn't be scared to explore faraway places. So we get kind of the point they're arguing.
I love that conclusion. 这个结论句很棒哎。
It is
I shouldn't be scared to explore faraway places. 不应该要害怕去探索比较远的地方。Okay, that's true. You'll never find out what, you explore or learn.
Exactly. That's very true. All right, let's take a quick break here. And when we're back, we will read through the first basic sample. Basic sample. I am lucky to be surrounded by smart people. I can talk to anyone in my family or my circle of friends about my problems. My Uncle Michael is one of those I speak to the most when I have a tricky decision to make. He's quite mature and has a lot of great experiences to draw on when he gives advice. Recently, I've been trying to decide which college to attend. All of my friends have chosen universities here in Taiwan, but I know there are a lot of good choices in Europe for my chosen field. Since my uncle has lived overseas, I asked him for his advice. He told me that Taiwan and my friends would always be here. I realized it was true, and that I shouldn't be scared to explore a new place, even if it's far away. Okay, so our basic sample is basically just following the structure that we had.
This looks like super easy now that we, after our bulletin points or the outlining thing, and this makes this writing so easy.
Yes, it makes it very easy, very simple. If you're not confident with your English, you can just follow this model. Just quickly answer the question, give some examples. A couple of words for us to go over.
I like that phrase, draw on.
Right. Draw on is a great word.
就是有仰赖啊，或者是利用。因为刚刚有提到说他的 uncle 蛮成熟的，所以他有很多的经验，他可以去就是从他身上学习啊，利用啊。当他在给意见的时候，然后刚刚还提到 tricky, right? 就是棘手的。
Right. Tricky basically means difficult or tough to do.
Yeah.
Probably involving a lot of skill. Okay, so what could we say is tricky? Rocket science is a pretty tricky field to get into. It's not something that you can just learn in an afternoon.
That's true.
You know? It's a bit difficult. Anyway, let's move on now to the second sample because there's lots more vocabulary that we can look at there. Advanced sample. The poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow once wrote, "Into each life some rain must fall." And when I first read that line, I felt it deeply. Though I have many good friends and wise family members to rely on, the year we studied that poem in school was the year I was first betrayed by a friend. I talked to my grandparents about nearly everything that takes place in my life, and I discussed this painful development with them too. After all of my grandparents are good listeners, and they always help me get to the root of my problems without telling me what to do outright. In this particular case, I was contemplating ending a friendship that stretched back to my kindergarten days. There had been signs that this friend was not a true friend, but I let our history override my good sense. As I told my grandparents everything, they counseled me to speak directly to him and listen carefully to what he said. His true character would thus be revealed, and I would have a better idea of how to proceed. When I brought up my feelings to this friend, he laughed and said I was exaggerating. Because of my grandparents' advice, I knew that this was not how a friend should behave, and I was able to express that clearly to him. We are no longer friends, which hurts, but I remember that the conclusion of the Longfellow poem about rain is that the sun still shines behind the clouds. It will not be dark forever.
Oh.
Well, that was beautifully written.
I know. Did you write this?
No, I didn't write this.
Wow.
I couldn't write nearly as well as whoever wrote this example.
Oh my God,
this is a really,
so
really good example.
well written.
Yes.
I have to say, being betrayed by a friend that you really care about, that really sucks.
It does really, really
And I
suck.
hate to be laughed and teased when I want to. I hate it that when people don't take me seriously, if you know what I mean. Like when we're talking about something and they never take you seriously, and it's like, ugh, that's frustrating.
Yeah, I think you always have to take other people's feelings seriously. Even if it's not a big deal for you, I think you can still, be compassionate and listen to them and work out why they are upset about something. So, if your friend is not as upset as you are, that's okay. But if they're rude to you about it, that's different. That's a different
That's like
thing.
you're not a friend.
I
Sure.
kind of want to look at the introduction and the conclusion of this passage because I think that that's
Same.
what's really
The
special.
conclusion, really, it's like beautifully written.
I think the reason it's so good is in the introduction they mention this quote from this poem.
Yeah.
Which is a very beautiful a quote about life. If you are writing your passage and you know a quote or you know a famous saying. Sorry?
It's like steal the quote.
Yes.
You don't steal. You can kind of use that quote to emphasize your ideas or your conclusion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's quoting, so it's fine. If you know the quote, obviously, if you don't know one, it's fine. You don't need to do this. But if you know a quote that applies to the story, you can put that in at the beginning to give yourself a good introduction. The thing that you need to remember is the quote needs to either be very expressive, it needs to say something very big, something that speaks to the reader.
It's very meaningful.
Meaningful, exactly. Or it needs to be a quote that everyone knows. So that, everybody's like, I know what you're talking about.
Like people can relate or they'll go, ooh, yeah, I know that quote. And they can draw that connection, right?
Exactly.
Quickly.
And then they feel connected to the story.
Exactly.
All right. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for our topic writing today. So you guys now have all the tools you need to write a really good story here. So think about a tricky decision you've had to make.
We should do this more often. Of course.
All right. So that's all the time that we have for today. We will see you later in the month in a few days when we'll be looking at translation. But until then, it's goodbye from me and Laura. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.